Hurricane Fran by Andrew Harvey and Ian Williams. What the global effects from this hurricane did and how it impacted the government as a whole. Background about Hurricane Fran and the effects it had on the world. Developed off the tropical wave that started off the coast of Africa on August 22nd, 1996. Started out as a tropical depression on August 23rd, 1996. Strengthened into a Category 3 hurricane with 120-mile-an-hour winds north of Bahamas on September 4th, 1996. Made landfall near Cape Fear, North Carolina, with 115-mile-an-hour winds on September 5th, 1996. The eye of the storm went through Raleigh, North Carolina, causing close to $100 million to repair what the area had lost. There were many hazardous atmospheric conditions. Acquired for 26 deaths in North Carolina due to extreme winds, rains, devastating debris, torrential rain with nonstop winds, and debris flying everywhere, wiping out everything in sight. Houses at the coast were destroyed and left in ruins. Water level rose to 2 to 4 feet of torrential downpour rain, vast flooding up the down in the coast everywhere. The weather of the hurricane was humid with a high atmospheric pressure. Air pressure was hot, dry, and humid, and that would equal perfect hurricane conditions to take place. High wind speeds ranged from anywhere from 110 to 140 miles an hour from south to north at different parts along the North Carolina coast. Scientific tools were used to measure the atmospheric pressure and recorded the readings on atmometers were too high and even released when they were saying atmosphere was too dense. 12-foot storm tide waves and oceans were chaotic, like nothing anybody has seen before at this time. Several piers on the coast were wiped out and destroyed from high tides of ocean risings. Now let's talk about the socio-economic impacts. Thousands and thousands of people were affected by Hurricane Fran because of the money that was lost. It was going to cost to rebuild their homes and communities and property that was lost. They were also affected mentally and emotionally. Emotionally drained, losing everything they had owned, which was wiped away. Mentally overwhelmed with the savings and earnings it was going to take to get back to their normal life eventually. Millions and millions of dollars were lost in result of the hurricane, between 5 and 10 million in some parts, up to 1 billion in repairs. The closer to the middle of the storm, which is the eye, where it hit the middle of NC and it cost of everything. Human cost equals thousands to millions of dollars on average. Everyone affected directly expensive event. Hurricane Fran in the history of hurricanes. People of the lower class minorities were affected mostly because they already not having enough money just put them in greater deficit. The working class middle class was still affected just as much due to the amounts of jobs and money earned, but jobs were lost during the time the hurricane came through North Carolina coast, which people had to rely on the money gained before the hurricane. Impacts of the event proved to be characterized of culture and society because certain culture societies did not have the resources to go back to the surface, so they had to borrow from other cultures with enough resources to survive. How did people respond? That were affected by this event were devastated and sad. It took many days to recover from this natural disaster. They began to rebuild their communities slowly but surely. People in the area rallied together for a common cause because everyone was experiencing the after effects of Hurricane Fran. They wanted to provide more resistance so that if a hurricane of this effect were to take place again, they would be ready for what it may bring: heavy rain, severe winds, devastating debris everywhere. And they set up strong barriers to help protect themselves with better cover.